When I met my son's fiancée, she laughed in my face. At least you don't need a mask for Halloween. You're scary enough as it is. The hurtful joke hit me like a betrayal from someone close to me. But when her parents recognized me, they burst into tears and whispered, "Is it really you?" Her world was turned upside down. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I checked the roast one last time. Perfect. 62 years of living had taught me that first impressions mattered, and I wanted Gordon's fiancée to see that his father knew how to set a proper table. The dining room looked good. I polished the mahogany table, even put out cloth napkins. Pearl Morrison was her name. The doorbell rang at 6 sharp. I opened the door with what I hoped was a warm, fatherly smile. At least you won't need a Halloween mask. You're scary enough already. Pearl's words hit me like cold water. She stood there grinning. Gordon stood beside her, and instead of correcting her, he let out this awkward chuckle that made my stomach turn. Pearl stepped past me, her eyes already scanning. Her gaze moved like an appraiser's, calculating, judging. Gordon followed her in, gave me a quick shoulder pat that felt more like an apology. In the dining room, Pearl looked at the table setting, then the walls. "Gordon mentioned you've lived here forever," she said, running her finger along the table edge. "The furniture certainly proves it. Do you ever think about updating?" I set the roast down. "I like my home the way it is." "Of course you do." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "So, Clarence," Pearl said, picking up her fork like it might be contaminated, "you're retired now. What do you do with your time?" "I stay busy. It must be lonely in such a big house. Do you ever think about downsizing? This place must cost a fortune to maintain." "The house is paid off," I said. "Maintenance is manageable." Pearl set down her fork. "Still, 4 bedrooms for one person. The neighborhood used to be nicer too." Something in her tone made me go very still. She wasn't making conversation. She was calculating. Gordon and I were discussing options after the wedding. It seems silly to rent when there's so much unused space here. We could really breathe new life into this place. There it was. She was here to stake her claim. I looked at Gordon. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "This is my home," I said quietly. Pearl's smile widened. "Of course it is, for now." I stood up. "Thank you both for coming. I think we're done for tonight." "Dad, we just got here." Gordon's head snapped up. I said we're done. Pearl stood, her expression shifting. "Well, I suppose we know where we stand." I opened the front door. Pearl walked out first. Gordon hesitated. "Dad." "Good night, Gordon." He left. I closed the door, stood in the sudden silence. My hands were shaking now. I let them. I cleared the dinner I'd spent hours preparing. Pearl's plate was still full. My jaw hurt from clenching it. She had cataloged everything I owned, and my son had sat there and let her do it. I never went to bed that night. The anger settled into something colder, sharper, understanding. This woman didn't see a person when she looked at me. She saw an asset to be acquired. The phone rang at 8:30. "Gordon, you embarrassed us last night. Pearl was trying to connect with you, and you just shut down. What's your problem?" "My problem is being insulted in my own home." She was joking. "You're too sensitive. You need to apologize." Something in my chest went quiet and cold. "No, I don't." "Fine. Don't expect to hear from us for a while." He hung up. I spent the week reading Oregon inheritance laws, estate planning, property rights. I was learning the rules of a game I hadn't known I was playing. 7 days later, Gordon called again, excited. "Dad, I have great news. Pearl and I are engaged. The wedding's in July." "That's fast." "And we've been discussing logistics. Your house makes perfect sense for us." "What are you talking about?" "You've got all that room, and you're alone there. For bedrooms just sitting empty. We'd be helping you out. Pearl's already looking at paint colors for the guest rooms." "Those aren't guest rooms," I said. "This is my house. Don't be selfish, Dad. It's time to think about family." "Let me be clear, Gordon. You and Pearl will not be moving into my house. Not now. Not after the wedding. Not ever." "You can't be serious." I've never been more serious. This conversation is over. I hung up. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was done being defensive. I walked to my home office, took inventory of my assets, and called a notary service. 2 days later, I sat at my dining room table and signed new estate documents. Each signature felt like drawing a line in the sand. I opened a fresh notebook, writing down real plans with timelines. They wanted war. They'd get one, fought on my terms. 3 weeks passed quietly. The doorbell rang on a Tuesday. Gordon stood there alone, nervous. "Can we talk?" he asked. We sat in the living room. "Pearl and I have been planning the wedding. The venues in Portland aren't cheap. I need to borrow $15,000. "That's a significant amount," I said. "I know, but your family. This is important. Pearl is accustomed to a certain lifestyle. We'll pay you back, obviously." My answer's no. "What? I live on a fixed pension. That money isn't available. You could access home equity if you wanted. You just don't want to help us." This is exactly what Pearl said you'd do. You're sitting in a house worth $500,000 in this market, and you won't help your only son get married. "It's mine. I earned it. That's reason enough." "Earned it? You worked." "Sure. But now you're alone here with 4 empty bedrooms, while Pearl and I are cramped. And you won't what? Hand over my equity because your fiancé is used to a certain lifestyle. That's not fair. Pearl really wants to be part of this family. She's already planning our future here. She found this great designer who specializes in updating older homes while keeping their character. She's thinking long-term, Dad. She's thinking about." I stood up. "Updating my home while I'm still living in it." Gordon froze. He'd said too much. "She was just looking ahead," he stammered. "Making plans for when, I mean eventually. Eventually, I'll die and she'll redecorate." I walked to the desk drawer, pulled out the folder I prepared weeks ago, set it on the coffee table between us. "Since we're discussing my assets, you should know I've revised my estate plan." He stared at the folder. "When I die, this house will be sold. The proceeds go to the Portland Firefighters Benevolent Fund." His face went white. "You're cutting me out of your will." "I'm ensuring my property serves people who respect what it represents, people who understood what it took to earn it." "This is insane. You're doing this because you don't like Pearl, because she made a bad first impression. I'm doing this because she's shown me exactly who she is, and you're too busy defending her to see it." Gordon grabbed the folder. "She was right about you," he said quietly. "She said you'd never accept her, said you'd find ways to punish us." I walked to the front door, opened it. "This conversation is over." "Dad, leave Gordon." He walked out. I watched him lean against his car, phone on speaker on the roof. Pearl had been listening the whole time. Gordon pulled the phone down, then looked back at my house. His expression was angry, confused, hurt. But through the windshield, I caught a glimpse of Pearl's face on the screen. Her expression wasn't confused or hurt. It was calculating. I closed the door. Gordon had taken a folder. Good. Let him show Pearl every page. Let her understand that her entire strategy had just collapsed. I returned to the garage, finished the hinge repair. My hands were steady. The calm that comes from knowing you've made the right move at the right time. The phone rang an hour later, then again 20 minutes after that. I didn't answer. Let them sit with it. Let them realize I wasn't negotiating. A week later, Gordon called again. "Dad, I know things got heated last time. Pearl feels awful about it. She wants to apologize properly. Can we take you to lunch?" "Neutral location," I said. "Tomorrow noon. I'll choose the place." I picked a diner. They arrived exactly at noon. Pearl was dressed down, every detail calculated to look humble. "I need to apologize," she said. "I was nervous meeting you, and I overcompensated by being critical. I want us to start over." "Actions matter more than words," I said. The visits continued, once a week, then twice. Pearl's performance was consistent. She was warm, engaged, brought expensive groceries, and complimented the great bones of my kitchen. But I watched for the cracks. Standing at the front window, during one visit, Pearl said, "Your neighbor really should do something about that yard. It makes the whole street look unfortunate. Tom works 2 jobs, I replied. He does his best. Well, property values affect everyone. Some people just don't understand that. I filed it away. Another visit. She steered the conversation toward finances. Have you thought about what you'll do with the house eventually? Gordon and I have been researching reverse mortgages. I'm not discussing my finances with you. She backed off quickly, but the intent had been clear. 4 weeks into the charm campaign, they visited on a Sunday. After they left, I found expensive furniture catalogs on my coffee table. Sticky notes marked various pages. Pearl's handwriting. Master bedroom. Lighter colors. Living room. Modern minimalist. Replace that awful wallpaper. The next visit I was ready. You left some reading material here, I said, holding up a catalog. I was just getting ideas for our apartment. I opened to a marked page. Master bedroom, lighter colors. You don't have a master bedroom in an apartment, Pearl. Her smile froze. I must have been thinking about dream houses, she said lightly. You were imagining my master bedroom. In my house. You're just planning to redecorate my home again. Despite all these apologies and visits and promises that she's changed. Pearl's mask cracked. You're being paranoid, she said, but her voice had an edge. Am I? You've spent weeks performing concern, all while making notes about which rooms you'll update first. They left shortly after. Pearl's performance had shattered. She'd been meticulous, planning color schemes and measurements, an interior design strategy for a house she'd already claimed in her mind. The call came during breakfast 4 days later. Gordon's voice had that artificial brightness. We've moved the wedding up to July, and Pearl thinks it makes sense for us to move in right after. We're worried about you being alone. I'm not alone. I'm independent, and you're not moving in. You know what your problem is? You're selfish. You'd rather sit in that big house alone than help your own son. Background noise. Then Pearl's voice, shrill and close. You ungrateful old man. We've tried being nice. You're standing in the way of our future because you're bitter and alone. This conversation is over, I said calmly. We'll see about that. 3 days later, the mail came. A professional envelope, Portland Realty Group. I opened it. Dear homeowner, thank you for your interest in our property evaluation services. Per your request through Ms. Pearl Morrison, we've prepared a preliminary market analysis for your property at my address. Estimated value, $540,000. The request date was 3 weeks ago, right in the middle of Pearl's charm offensive. She'd been pricing my house while pretending to apologize. I called the agency. I'm the homeowner at this address. I never authorized this appraisal. Our records show Pearl Morrison contacted us on behalf of the family. She said you'd agreed to explore options for estate planning purposes. I agreed to nothing. Send me all correspondence related to this request. Every email, every note, every document. I hung up, standing in my kitchen. She hadn't just wanted my house. She'd already been planning what to do with it after she had it. I drove downtown that afternoon to an office building I'd researched days before. Rebecca Chun, attorney at law. Her receptionist showed me to a conference room with a view of the river. Ms. Chun arrived with a notepad and reading glasses. I spread the documents across her table. Property deed, previous will, the real estate letter, Pearl's furniture catalogs with her room notes. I explained the situation without emotion. What you're describing is financial exploitation positioning, she said finally. She's laying groundwork to claim interest in your property. The fact that she's already researching market value suggests she's planning well ahead. Can she succeed? Not if we document properly. Your mental competence is clear. Your decisions are sound, and will create legal structures she can't penetrate. Over the next hour, she outlined strategies, living trust amendments, transfer on death deed updates, beneficiary confirmations with the charity foundation, letters to Gordon explicitly stating his non-inheritance status regarding the property. She'll have no standing to contest anything, Ms. Chun said. These documents properly executed and witnessed create legal barriers that even aggressive litigation can't break through. I signed documents for the next 40 minutes. Each signature witnessed, notarized, dated, sealed. Each page another lock on a door Pearl had been trying to open. I drove home, filed the documents in my safe, and reviewed what we'd built. Irrevocable trust, transfer on death deed, updated will, letters of intent. Pearl Morrison had walked into my life with a plan to acquire my property. I had just locked every door she'd been planning to use. My phone rang. Gordon again. I let go to voicemail. Whatever new angle Pearl had coached him on, it didn't matter anymore. I'd built walls she couldn't climb. A week passed in silence. The phone rang on a Tuesday. Gordon's voice sounded exhausted. I know Pearl crossed lines, but the wedding's in 3 weeks, and I can't get married with this tension. Pearl's parents, Thomas and Donna, they're good people. Maybe if we all meet, we can find some understanding. One more dinner, please. If this happens, it's in a restaurant, I said. Neutral ground. Having them come to your home would mean something. It shows you're willing to include her family in your space. Please, Dad. I weighed the risk. I'll do this dinner. But understand, this is the last attempt. No more negotiations, no more chances. After Saturday, we'll both know where we stand. I spent the next days preparing my house. Cleaned windows, polished the dining table, arranged 6 place settings, planned a menu that spoke of care and competence. Roast chicken, seasoned vegetables, fresh bread. Saturday morning, I timed the food preparation to be perfect at 6 o'clock. I stood in the dining room, looking at the prepared table. 6 chairs. Gordon wanted peace. Pearl wanted my property. I wanted truth. I sat in my armchair, breathing slowly. You assessed the situation, made your plan, executed it with calm precision. You stayed ready for anything. This was no different. Headlights swept through my front window at 5:40. 20 minutes early, unexpected. I walked to the door. Gordon and Pearl stood on my porch. She wore a cream-colored dress, and both had matching smiles that looked rehearsed. We know we're early, Gordon said. Pearl was ready, and I figured we could help with last-minute things. Come in. Pearl entered with her performance already running. Clarence, the house looks absolutely lovely. You've gone to so much trouble. She touched my arm lightly. In the kitchen, I pulled the chicken from the oven. Gordon immediately started helping. Pearl positioned herself at the counter, slicing bread. 3rd drawer, she said deliberately, pulling out serving spoons. I remember from my other visits. Her eyes met mine briefly. She wanted me to know she'd cataloged everything. Gordon's phone buzzed. Work. I'm sorry. I have to take this. He stepped onto the back porch, closing the door. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. Pearl's smile disappeared. The transformation was instant, like a mask sliding off. You understand your mistake now, old man. Her voice dropped to a hiss. Gordon's on my side completely. He does whatever I tell him. You've been playing your games, changing your will, but you've already lost. After the wedding, this house, your money, everything you're trying to protect. It's just a matter of time. She moved closer. Gordon will convince you, or I'll wait you out. Either way, you're what, 62? How many years do you really have left? Enough, I said quietly. She laughed, mocking. Look at you, alone in this big house, clinging to your furniture and your pride like they're all you have left, because they are all you have. You couldn't keep your wife. You're losing your son. You're just a sad old man who couldn't hold on to his family. And you think some papers are going to stop me. You're wrong about one thing. What's that? I'm not playing games. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're tough? I've been planning this since before Gordon proposed. You're not fighting me, old man. You're fighting someone who knows exactly what she wants and exactly how to get it. The doorbell rang. Pearl's expression flickered. The predator scrambled to reassemble her mask. She straightened up, smoothed her dress, and the smile returned. I walked to the front door. I heard the back door open. Gordon's voice, cheerful and oblivious. Sorry about that. Work crisis averted. Did I miss anything? Just me telling your father how much this evening means to us. Pearl's voice was honey and warmth. The switch had been complete. Her parents should be here any minute, Gordon said, appearing beside me. You're really going to like them, Dad. They're good people, down to earth, not fancy or pretentious. I reached for the doorknob, paused. My instincts, the same ones that sense the movement of smoke through unseen spaces, told me something was off. I turned the knob and pulled the door open. A couple stood on my porch. The man, Thomas, wore a pressed button-down shirt. The woman, Donna, a navy dress. Their smiles froze. Thomas's eyes locked onto mine, studying my features intensely. Wait, Donna, look at his face. Really look. Donna's hand went to her mouth. Your face, she whispered. I know your face. We have, Thomas insisted, his voice shaking. 25 years ago. You saved our daughter's life. Gordon appeared behind me. Dad, what's he talking about? Our house caught fire. September 2000. Pearl hid. She was only 7. You went in when other firefighters said it was too dangerous. Donna's voice broke. You brought her out. You could have died saving our daughter. My mind raced backward. September 2000. Structure unstable. A child inside. I had gone in anyway. Pearl, I said slowly. Your daughter, Pearl, is our Pearl. Donna gripped my hands. The little girl you rescued. She has scars on her back and arms from that fire. You gave her a future. Movement from the kitchen doorway. Pearl emerged, still wearing that fake smile. What's going on? Then she heard her mother's words. Pearl stopped walking. Her smile cracked. The fire. I remember strong arms, someone carrying me. She looked at me, and recognition slammed into her like a physical force. It was you, she whispered. She stared at me. Her expression cycled through confusion, realization, horror, shame. Her face went white. Then her legs gave out. She dropped to her knees on my living room floor, hands covering her face. What have I done? I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Her whole body was shaking, sobbing into her hands. Dad. Gordon's voice sounded far away. You never told me you were a firefighter. It was my job, I said. I did my job. You did more than your job. Thomas's voice was thick. You risked your life. We've thought about you every day for 25 years. Pearl made another broken sound. She didn't know who I was, I said quietly. The words hung in the air. She's been trying to take my house, I continued, my voice flat. Insulting me, manipulating Gordon, planning to move in after the wedding. I changed my will to protect my property, and she called me an ungrateful old man. Silence. The first time we met, I said, looking at Thomas and Donna. She told me I didn't need a Halloween mask because my face was scary enough already. Thomas went pale. I didn't know. Pearl managed through tears. I swear I didn't know it was him. If I had known. If you'd known, would you have been different? I asked. Or would you have just used it differently? She looked up, her face destroyed. I don't know, she whispered. I was so angry about the scars, about the nightmares. I spent my whole life proving I was strong, and I became cruel. Gordon finally spoke. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me you were a firefighter? Because I left that life behind when your mother got sick, and after she died. Talking about the past felt like opening wounds. You gave us 25 more years with our daughter, Thomas said, staring at me like I was something sacred. Every moment we've had with her, we owe you. Let's sit down, I said, my voice cutting through the emotional static. I took my place at the head of the table. The food sat cooling, forgotten. Thomas recounted the night of the fire, the alarm, the flames, the captain shouting at me not to go in. Donna described the wait, and my emergence, coughing, carrying Pearl. I remembered the beam that fell behind me. You wouldn't leave until you knew she'd be okay, Thomas said, gesturing to the faded scars on my forearms. Pearl's hand went unconsciously to the hidden scars on her shoulder blade. Tell me why, I said to her. Why did you become this person? I've spent 25 years trying to pretend that fire didn't define me. I built this persona of someone strong and in control. If I was the one looking down on people, they couldn't look down on me first. And in doing that, I prompted. I became cruel. I became exactly the kind of person who shouldn't exist in the world. Look what I did to your father. I went into that fire to save a child who deserved a chance at life, I said, my voice steady. I'm disappointed that child grew into someone who would treat others with cruelty and contempt. Someone who would try to take what isn't hers. Pearl's shoulders shook harder. But, I continued, I see genuine remorse now, not performance. Actual understanding of what you've done. So, I forgive you, Pearl. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with disbelief. However, I said, and my tone firmed, forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Respect isn't given automatically just because we share history. It has to be earned. If you want to be part of this family, you'll need to show through actions, not words, that you've changed, that the person you were at 7, the one who deserved to be saved, is someone you're willing to become again. The words hung in the air. Pearl stared at me, then slowly nodded, unable to speak through her tears. I sat back down. The dinner I'd prepared would go uneaten, but something more important than food had been served. Truth, recognition, the possibility of transformation. Gordon reached for Pearl's hand. Thomas looked at me with reverence. 25 years, he said softly. 25 years we've carried gratitude with no way to express it. And now we find you like this. Life has strange timing, I replied. What happens now? Donna wiped her eyes. Now, I said, we see if words become actions, if remorse becomes change, if understanding becomes growth. Pearl nodded again. I'll prove it to you. I promise I'll prove it. Then prove it, I said simply. Not tomorrow. Not in some grand gesture. In the small choices you make every day from this point forward. The evening stretched on. Eventually, Thomas and Donna left, their hugs filled with almost painful gratitude. Gordon and Pearl followed. At the door, Pearl paused. Thank you, she whispered, for saving me then and for giving me a chance now. After they left, I stood in my quiet house. I prepared for war, but fate had intervened and done what no strategy could accomplish. It had revealed truth. 2 weeks later, Pearl called. I'd like to talk. Just for a few minutes. I'll bring coffee. No agenda. I agreed. She arrived mid-morning with 2 coffees. We sat on my front porch. I started seeing someone, she said, genuine anxiety in her voice. A therapist. I'm trying to understand why I became the person I was. That's a good step. Can I ask about your firefighting career? She asked, looking at me directly. It was my job for 30 years. I did what needed doing. You saved a lot of people besides me, didn't you? Some, not all. You can't save everyone. She was quiet, but you tried. That's what matters. The visits continued weekly. Small, careful conversations. I watched for signs of the old Pearl. I saw someone struggling to rebuild herself instead. The wedding came in early August. Small garden venue, simple ceremony. Gordon said. Pearl insisted on keeping it small. Said she wanted it to be about us, not about proving anything to anyone. I attended. A week later, Gordon called with news. We signed a lease on a 2-bedroom in the Hawthorne district. Pearl was actually the one who insisted. Said we needed to start our marriage in our own place. Not your place, our place. Relief mixed with satisfaction. The boundary I defended had been honored by choice. Mid-August, a 3-page, handwritten letter arrived from Pearl. Dear Clarence, I can't take back calling you scary. I can't erase trying to manipulate you into giving up what you'd earned. I can only say I'm ashamed of who I was and grateful you're giving me a chance to become someone better. You saved my life twice, once from fire and once from myself. Thank you for both. I wrote back. I acknowledge your efforts. Keep doing the work. Respect is earned through sustained action. I'm willing to see where this leads. Late August, Gordon called. Hey, Dad. Pearl and I were thinking of trying that new Italian place downtown this weekend. Want to join us? His voice was easy, natural. Saturday work for you? I asked. Perfect. Just dinner? Nothing formal. We just want to see you. I'd like that. I'll be there. I realized my victory wasn't in punishing her. It was in maintaining my dignity, holding my boundaries, and allowing space for genuine transformation. The irony was profound. My heroism had indirectly created my antagonist, but facing that truth had transformed everything. The war was over, not because I destroyed my enemy, but because truth had transformed her, and I'd stood my ground long enough to see it happen. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.